Would you or someone you know like to be a guest on Listen Up? If so, give us a call at area code 816-535-1081. That's area code 816-535-1081. Or better yet, email us at listenupblackpeople@gmail.com.
Hello everyone, I'm Kelvin Tiller, owner of Tiller's Mixed Martial Arts here in Kansas City, Kansas. Here at Tiller's Mixed Martial Arts, I offer boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, and strength and conditioning. We have affordable pricing for adults and children. I am open Monday through Saturday, so please come out and support, and I hope to see you soon.
Hi, I'm Tova Tanner of Royal Cohesive Network. We are a nonprofit organization that work with youth in the local community. Our four cornerstones of sustainability are literacy, youth entrepreneurship, homeschool hub, and also gardening. Our mission is to engage people in educational and professional development to enhance sustainability. You can visit our website at www.royalnetwork.org, or you can follow us on Facebook. You can also email us at info@royalnetwork.org.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Curry.
Hi, and I'm Florence Curry.
And we are the owners of Longevity Nutrition.
Longevity Nutrition is a company that serves healthy shakes,
energizing teas, sports nutrition, and we would like to offer you good nutrition.
What better way than to think about your health and become healthier? We're here to service you. We're open Monday through Friday, 6:30 to 5, and Saturdays, 8 to 3.
Yes, and we're going to work on that good nutrition inside out.
That's right.
Pine Hill Productions, providing voiceover and narration for your production needs.
Hi, my name is Brianna Bonner. I'm an activist, a poet, and a lifelong learner. As far as poetry goes, I write poetry about political events, economic events, and about my own life. As far as activism goes, I'm a part of several different organizations that work in political reform, educational reform, et cetera, and I also co-founded a couple of organizations. And as far as being a long lifetime learner, I love learning things, and I love really growing myself as a person.
Hi, my name is Brandy Bonner, and I'm so excited to be meeting you today. I am known as the Intentional Woman Author, aka the Dream Queen, and I help people discover what their nightmare is and go from living a nightmare to living their dream life. I'm an international best-selling author, a TED Talk speaker, and an empowerment coach for women.
So I got started in poetry from a very young age. Actually, my mother, when I was around 8 or 9, she taught me how to read when I was 2. So at 8 or 9, she was like, yeah, you really should write poetry. You'd be really good at writing poetry. And she encouraged me to write a lot of stories. And obviously, I blew her off. You know, you always blow your mom off. You're always like, I'm not about to do that because you told me I should do it. But then I was 11 or 12, and instead of watching whatever's on TV, I started watching the Button Poetry YouTube channel. And I started watching people perform slam poetry, and I learned that I could take whatever I was feeling and turn it into an art form. So I started using poetry in middle school to go through a very rough period of time in middle school to try and cope with that. So now I'm ready to share that with other people to hopefully cope together. As far as activism goes, I've always been an activist. I've always known something was wrong with this world. I just didn't quite know how to fix it. So recently I've started reading a lot more political theory and trying to figure out how we fix it and how to move forward. So that's a little bit about me.
So kind of where my journey begins is with this lovely one here. I raised her at home, and then I put her in the school district, and we realized very quickly that I had advanced her far past the school district and past their curriculum. And so several times I took her home to homeschool her. But in the midst of homeschooling her, then I realized that I needed to make a change in order to be the best example I could be, to be the best mom that I could be, and to set her on the path. And so I became an intentional parent. And my main objective for her was to figure out what she really wanted and what was best for her and what she loved. And those are questions that they don't ask in the school district. And so that was the beginning. And so while she was learning about her, I started learning about me, and I wrote my first book, my memoir called The Intentional Woman, and I share my journey from my nightmare to living my dream life. And I share how by changing myself, I was able to help my daughter and my husband become more of who they were.
Being a poet is beneficial because, again, like I said, I use it to cope with my own pain. I use it to cope with what the world gives us often. So I write about political themes. And I find that when we go back through history, when we look at historical events, my best way to see that is through poetry. I like to be able to see exactly what people were feeling at that particular time and kind of put myself in their shoes. So it would be beneficial for my community in the future for us to be able to look back on it and cope in a healthy way. And it would also be better in the present for us to be able to kind of, cope together, I guess, in the best way possible. And as far as political activism goes, it's obviously beneficial for our community because I just want to see my people liberated. I want to see a better world. So that would be able to help our community.
I empower women to become all that they desire to be. I help them figure out what it is that you're dreaming about, what it is that you really want. And once you know that, then I help you put a plan in place to make that come to pass. And if you're raising children, I help women understand how to be an intentional parent, that it doesn't matter where they come from, it doesn't matter what kind of parent that they had, that they can be intentional about creating a proper relationship, a proper situation between themselves and their children. And that's the main thing that I do. I help women figure out what they want and go get it.
Well, the easiest way to get in contact with me specifically is my email. My email is faithstone455@gmail.com. FAITHSTON455@gmail.com. That's the easiest way to get in contact with me. I'm always answering my email, so just shoot me an email and we can always do work.
So the way you can find me is you can find me at www.theintentionalwoman.net. And you can find my services there. You can find my writings there. We also do a young entrepreneur class where we teach young people how to become entrepreneurs, how to make their own money, how to start their own businesses. And so that's something that we do together. We work with youth together. And I work with women, again, to empower them to live the life of their dreams.
This episode of Listen Up is sponsored by Legends Comedy Club and Sports Lounge, Kansas City's premier black-owned comedy club where the laughs are on us and the experience is second to none. Delisha Smith, SD Smith, BRC firm?
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you.
So give us a little background on how you got into business and a little bit of history about the firm.
Okay, so our firm has been open almost a year. I started actually as a service coordinator. So I did more of the community development pieces, events, different things like that. And then I got to a point where I just decided I wanted to do it on a bigger scale. I did it from a perspective of property management. So I wanted to not be limited to just that building, but I wanted to really do something where I could have more of an impact on my community. So I got up one day, prayed about it, and walked away from it. But wanted to make sure that no matter what I did, that I kept the same idea, the same personality. I wanted to be able to capture visions, what people's visions were for a community, and be able to implement that. So that's how SD got started.
Okay. And now what's the focus of, what's the service that your firm provides? What's the primary service that it provides?
Business consulting. We do business consulting, resource consulting. So our biggest piece is partnering you with other businesses to help you learn how to collaborate, helping businesses to understand the importance of collaborations and partnerships. And we do everything from starting your business, new entrepreneurs, to rebranding, to just about like literally everything. We do event planning, and then we just do some basic consulting, where we just talk to different individuals and find out what it is that you want to see in your community, to give us an opportunity to really see how our businesses can make an impact.
Gotcha. Now, do you have like a target client group that you usually target? Like, I guess what I'm asking is, like, do you target a certain culture of people? Like, for example, do you see more of a Afrocentric or black group of people that you kind of target or work with?
I don't. I try to. I won't say that I don't. But I think one of the things that I've noticed in this business is a little different when you start looking at age demographics. So right now, our biggest focus is actually trying to look more toward our younger individuals, because I think that when you're looking at where we're going, as a community, as a culture, right? We've gotten to this place where people aren't really listening to the younger generation. So I think this platform kind of allows them an opportunity to say, okay, I have a business, I have an idea, I was given a vision, how do I make that work? Right? And I've realized that when you're dealing with a lot of older individuals, right, we kind of get stuck in our ways a little bit, right? We come from a different time frame of what business would actually be like. So you don't give that opportunity for a lot of the younger generation to have a platform. So right now our focus is actually looking at what things we can do to incorporate more younger individuals. We have a client right now, and I love it because they're also a lot more hands-on, and they're innovative, right? They've got 50 million ideas, and it's like, okay, that works for me. So as long as you can give me more information and you can really allow me to see that vision, I just want to work with it.
So now when you say younger, what what age bracket are we looking at?
So we're looking at young adults anywhere from about 14 to 25. We're actually starting another piece, partnership piece next year, where we're actually going to start looking at about 10, right? Because the idea is, if I can get your child at 10 years old, right, who starts this lemonade stand, right, to understand the value of business. By the time they get 18, no more going into college and not knowing what you want to do or not 100% sure. In addition to that, you've built credit, you understand business structure, right? And now you have something that if you need to be able to use that for leverage or collateral, you can, right? I've seen lemonade stands that are extremely lucrative after 4 or 5 years. So maybe your child needs to be able, or your parent, you can't afford to send your child to college. But this lemonade stand has made almost $120,000 over the last 6 or 7 years, right? And I think that also gives parents an opportunity to truly invest in the visions that their child has, whether it's art, right? Whether it's dance, whether it's just, hey, I just want to sell brownies, Mom, because I want some new shoes. Right. So it allows us culturally to just be able to kind of use what it is that we already know and to take this aspect to teach each other, right, from a different perspective.
That's interesting. I noticed that on your website, one of the components that you did mention on your site was leadership. And when you mentioned that particular age bracket, especially when you're talking about from 10 to 14 years old, there's a missing component of leadership, because what I've learned is that when you look throughout, our family structure and even throughout school, you'll see that families and even teachers tend to kind of dismantle a child's leadership capabilities. When a child speaks out, they consider that child to be disruptive or disrespectful, and they discipline him. And I've noticed that a lot of times that is one of the components that kind of discourages leadership. So with your firm, what type of tools do you use to kind of repair that damage?
So we usually start off by, it's as simple as, that conversation. If I understand the vision that you have, then I think for me, then I'm able to see what leadership qualities you have. So I focus on those qualities that individual is best at. I think oftentimes in business you get caught up with the money piece of it, and you forget and you lose sight of what that original vision was and what actually brought you to this point. So one of the things that we always do is we do personality evaluations at the same time. We're looking for what are the skills, what are the things that you love, what places can I put you in, positions can I put you in that allow you to grow. Right. And that's not going to be the same for everybody. It can be something as simple as a debate opportunity, right? Teaching you to speak. I think that's extremely important, because being a leader, it's great that you have these capabilities, but are you able to deliver that and it be effective? Communicating, right? I think as adults sometimes we get sidetracked by some of the other pieces, and we were taught differently. So understanding that we're in a generation and a time frame now where you can't tell kids to be silent, because you can I can go and look at YouTube, right, and I can learn something 10 times quicker than the 4 years it took you to learn it when you were in college. Right. So we really just look at all of the aspects around the personality of the individual. And I think that's because if I can teach you to understand how to be a leader for yourself, my goal isn't just to make you the greatest that you can be at business. My goal is, if for whatever reason my company drops off the face of the earth tomorrow, you have these different tools that you need to continue to be successful. You understand who you are as an individual. You understand what it is that you can add to the community that you're a part of. And you understand what it means to be a part of a community. Right.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of, for the most part, like where we start. And then from there, I'm a creative person where I can come up with ideas off the top of my head. So I usually take that opportunity and run with it. Right. I listen for the small pieces, the things that they don't talk a lot about, but you can tell that they're passionate about it.
And it takes some observation, because even like you mentioned vision. Matter of fact, you mentioned vision several times, and like I said, that's another component I saw on your website. And again, when we're talking about young people, especially like children, and I say children 10 to 14, still a child, but still can be very innovative and creative as far as starting a business. So with SD Smith, when it comes to helping a child or a young person or even adult discover their vision, what approach do you take?
So there's a lot of different approaches that you can take. I usually start out with some leadership development training. I get them to kind of give me an opportunity to see where they see this scrunchy business or what they want to do with this brownie business. Believe it or not, most of the kids start something because a seed was planted somewhere else, right? They seen the neighbor at school who didn't have food, or they seen somebody down the street, right? And so what I do is I cultivate that piece. I find that parents are extremely supportive of goals when you start talking about it from a leadership perspective, because no parent wants to be told that they're not allowing their child to be a leader, right? And so sometimes it's just a matter of having those conversations, because I've had to do it where I sit down with a parent and say, I love you, and I think that where you're trying to go with this child is amazing, but this isn't what makes them happy, right? So I also don't try to do that from a perspective of therapy and psychology, but meeting them in the middle. One of my past experiences, I worked as a service coordinator with seniors and disabled individuals. So I was able to really do a lot of pieces that allowed me to get to know what it meant for people to struggle with mental disabilities. Right? So I think taking that aspect and just being able to put them in these different positions that say, okay, how can I meet them? Right, in the middle. If your child is struggling with ADHD, how can I use that to allow them to grow, right? And then teaching the parent at the same time how to do that. I partner with different organizations that come from a lot of different perspectives. I try to partner with whether they're young, whether they're older, right? If they can truly make an impact. And sometimes you don't see it, right off of the bat, but for me, like I said, I'm always going. So I have this big theory, Stephen Covey began with the end in mind. Right? So when I think of that, I'm thinking from everything from the mental standpoint, from the physical piece, right? Every piece that I can put in play. My history, my mom struggled with a drug problem, right? I struggled with not being able to have all of these different pieces. But when I got in high school, I was a part of everything I could be. Now, more so to get out of the house, right? But it made me realize how many of these different pieces and this support that if I had it beforehand, then maybe, just maybe, things would have been a little different for me. But as I got older, I realized that didn't matter, right? What mattered was the level of support that I actually had from my community, the support that I had from friends, from family, right? And not just saying, hey, Delisha, you're going to be awesome. But actually helping me and pushing me, go to college. Take this opportunity. If you want to go to the military, go to the military. Right? If you want to go over here, and I had this big dream of teaching in England. Right? I knew French when I was in high school. I don't now. But I had this amazing dream, right? I had this dream I was going to teach in England for a while, and I was going to be president of the United States. Okay? It just kind of, that's where it went, right? But that same mentality is what pushed me into all of the different fields that I ended up going into, because I realized my passion was helping. My passion was being a servant, and there was nothing wrong with that, but I needed to be able to understand that about myself and be comfortable with that. So I love just bringing an opportunity to put children in spaces where they're comfortable.
Now the collaboration component. Even as adult business owners, we have issues with collaboration. And I've noticed it a lot, and I'm sure you've noticed it a lot. Just in Kansas City alone, when you look at the collaboration efforts of black men and women, you see this distance, this crabs in a barrel type of mentality. And not saying that we can't correct that, but again, going back to mentoring and coaching our young people, do you find it challenging at all to kind of communicate to them the importance of collaboration?
I do. I do. A lot of different pieces, like you said. People people are just really stuck in their ways. And here in Kansas City, we're small-minded, right? Let's be honest. Kansas City gets the last to everything. We're the last to know about a lot of things, right? Once people move from Kansas City, they're like, oh, I get the best support that I don't get here, right? But I think the piece for me is going back to mentality, right? You can have an agenda all day long, but how do you change that without affecting the mentality, right? It also comes from knowledge. I've noticed that there are a lot of pieces where you have all of these people that have these amazing dreams, right? But they're not really their dreams. They're dreams that come from a previous generation, right? A grandfather that was a doctor, or a grandfather who, or a grandmother who had their own business, right? And we kind of have this idea of we create generational wealth, right, by following in those same footsteps, when the truth is that's not how that goes, right? So I think one of the biggest things that I do find is that because a lot of our businesses are small-minded like that, again, I just try to focus on ways that I can put them in creative spaces to do those things. I love collaborating. I think it's the best thing that you could ever do, because truth of the matter is everybody wants to give something, right? And what happens is you find a lot of adults that tend to clash because their beliefs aren't the same. Right? And when you remove those pieces of it and you begin to teach people to understand that we don't have to believe the same to come together, right? And it has to do with personality at the same time, but if I can place you in a space, right, that allows you to flourish and you have fun in the process of doing it, right, then no matter what happens, nobody's taking that experience away from you, right? And if I can enhance your knowledge at the same time. So in addition to just collaborating, what can you take away from this business? How can you and this business work together going forward, and understanding that it's always not about money, but about the investment. Absolutely. Right, that piece of it. So,
and I think you touched on something that's very important. You tend to see when people are going into business or seeking like entrepreneurship or fame and fortune, it's common that you see people trying to live in other people's light. You know, they try to be like someone else, and they tend to forget about who they are. What words of encouragement could you offer for someone who's struggling with trying to find their own vision, who's trying to find their own light? What words of encouragement can you offer to
so that person? Really for me is where our motto came from, right? Dare to dream, right? Dream. There's nothing wrong with a dream, right? But it's only a dream until you start putting it into action. So if I could give words of encouragement, I would say dream your biggest dream, right? No matter what it is, and take it one step at a time, right? Every no is a stepping stone to a yes. Right? If you tell me no, that's great, because I'm going back to the drawing board and now I'm gonna figure out how to make it the yes, right? I love that this generation now doesn't take no for an answer, right? And that's a great thing. For a lot of us, no, that's not a great thing, right? But it is, because it tells you and it shows you that they have the ability to press forward, right? And I would tell them to speak out.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to speak out. Don't be afraid to stand out, right? Standing apart and being apart is what makes you unique, right? We are all uniquely designed for a purpose, whatever it may be. So take that opportunity. If you get a shot, take it. Because most of the shots are missed because we don't take them, right? And if somebody tells you no, find somebody else that will sit down and listen. They don't got to tell you yes, but just let them listen. Right? And I think if we did more of that, where we actually listened and heard what they had to say, you'd be surprised, because a lot of it makes sense, right? And we're not in this generation anymore where we're picking up the telephone, right? We don't even remember numbers anymore.
Oh, man.
Right? So I think the hardest piece is just stepping back.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, stepping back to understand that we are no longer the leading generation. Right? So you have to give these generations and these children an opportunity to show you what it is that they can do. So no matter who you are, whether you're young, whether you're old, I would say always go back to your vision. I don't care if you're making $150 million a year. Go back to your vision. because you're never going to truly be happy until you find what it is that brought you there to begin with. Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, even when you look, at the Bible, the people that God chose all were chosen. They were all given a vision.
Yep.
And you find that even when we're given visions, a lot of us are not following those visions, and we find out later on it's something that we don't want to do or we don't like it. Sometimes those visions are given to us by other people, parents, family members, and things of that nature. We've all heard that get a real job type of thing. But I totally agree with you, and especially with you. I do agree. You need to dream, and I guess a dream without action is just a hallucination.
Right. That's exactly what it is. And look how many people sit back and do that all the time.
Right.
How many times have you had a conversation with somebody and you can tell this is something that they would want to do or they want to be a part of, right? And for whatever reason, they just don't. Right. And a lot of time it has to do with the influence that's around them at the same time. Right. It's not just money. It comes from this perspective of, well, if JoJo don't like it, then I'm not going to do it. Right. And unfortunately, we've passed that same mentality down to our children because they're in this world now where they look for validation.
Absolutely.
Right. So I think it's our responsibility to provide that and to understand how we need to provide it. But I think we also have to understand what role we play when it comes to the kingdom. Right. Absolutely. And where you are with that. Be comfortable if you're not, everybody's not a leader. Right. And just because you are a leader doesn't mean that you're supposed to be the leader. Right. So you have to understand, one, where you're supposed to be. Two, how comfortable are you with being a servant? Right. Essentially, I think we all play a role some way or another. Right.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I don't think so at all.
There's nothing wrong with following.
Yeah.
And to be a good leader, you have to be a good follower.
That is true.
Well. So tell us how we can get a hold of you.
So we have different ways. So, of course, the website, www.sdsmithbrcfirm.com. Our office is located inside of the Hy-Vee Arena. Kansas City knows it as the old Camper Arena. So we're always available. Our office is open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Our phone, of course, 816-601-1927. And then most of the time you'll find us either on Facebook or on Instagram. We try our best to just stay out in the community one way or another. So if you have an idea that you want to collaborate with, if you just have something that you just want to see, let's see how this goes. Right? Do you have a company that maybe we can partner with? Right? We also bring investors to the table, which I love as well. That's a piece of that. If I can give you the opportunity to have somebody invest in you, that's awesome. Right. So other than those pieces, I, for the most part, make myself available at any time because I love what I do. I really do. So if you're not able to reach me in the office and you're able to stop by. One thing I love about the arena is with it being still open, you can stop by at any time.
Okay. All right. So now if we wanted to just contact you on social media, or just kind of to go in and look at some of the feed and conversations that you might be having, how can we find you on social media? Where do we look? How do we?
So Instagram and Facebook are both SD Smith BRC Firm.
Okay.
We have Pinterest as well. I just love Pinterest, so I think it was just more of an opportunity to be able to put some information out there to provide a space where people can kind of come back just to find something relatable, if that makes sense. All of our events and things like that we do, we post on social media. And other than that, I'm not a Twitter fan. So I don't have Twitter, but I think that's one of those pieces of being innovative. Right? But other than Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest, and the website,
so we can go on there, like any events that you're having, things like that, and we can keep us current on what's going on and what SD Smith is doing, right?
Absolutely.
Great. Awesome. Well, Ms. Smith, I want to thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Our pleasure. And that concludes our show for this evening. We'd like to thank our guests, our staff, our sponsor, and our supporters for their contributions. But most importantly, we'd like to thank you, our viewers. Be sure and tune in for our next broadcast and follow us online. Thank you. Good night.